What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. Mr. Ray, what's up, Beast?
What up, Wes? Let me just try and get the lighting in my studio perfect.
Uh-oh. So where do we find you? You said you're out of your home land. Where are you?
No.
Uh-oh. Sorry, technical difficulties. Ray is trying to do something. Let's see.
All right. How do you say zero difference? Okay. All right. Good morning, Wes. Good morning, dogs.
Good morning,
It
Beast.
is Canadian
And we cannot
Thanksgiving.
see you, just in case you know. Just so you know.
But you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yep. Yep.
Good enough. We are celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving up in Canada this weekend.
Oh, nice, man. Cool.
Yeah, it's. I guess the harvest comes earlier up here. That's kind of. I think that's the cliche.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
nice.
you, Don. Don can see me. I'm seen. I feel seen. I feel heard.
You can see
Thank
you now,
you,
too.
Don.
Man.
I see you and I love you. Okay.
So
How was your week?
The week is going great. We have actually the whole team. We flew people in from around the country.
Ohio and whatnot.
Yeah. And also from Memphis and from Georgia, etc. And we've got the whole team meeting here. So nice bonding sessions. It's amazing how much bonding actually happens just through going out to dinner and hanging out in person, because a lot of our businesses run remotely. So it's cool seeing people's faces who I haven't seen in a while. And actually, my assistant, I've never met her in person. This is the first time. So it's pretty wild.
Wow. Yeah, in person, things can pollinate in a way that it just can't happen remotely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get into it since you were on holiday and I've got to get to work anyway. You had last week we talked about in a piece of the book and basically the 12 steps. So we want to have you lead that discussion if that's cool with you. You've led the dogs in this discussion before, but now since we're reading it again in the book, if anybody's wondering which book that is, it is called, and I'll show you, Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. And I am now on chapter 5. I'm almost done chapter 5. So,
right, and I wanted to really zoom in on the 12-step program, because the author specifically mentions the 12 steps as a good model to get out of the lower levels of energy on the scale. So, I saw myself in that description of, anger, shame, envy, like all these different words he described, the 0 to 200, let's say, levels of energy on the scale. It's all this bad behavior. I mean, I don't live down there in the lower levels, but when I'm in traffic or muttering about my neighbor or feeling jealous about something I saw on Instagram, I find myself having like low level thoughts. And so he said the nice thing about this book is that it isn't, when he talks about spirituality, he's not talking about just Christianity, right? He's talking about, he mentions Buddhism, Islam, like the universe, like, and I was thinking earlier today, like, I wonder if there's a place for atheism even, like, right? It's like, do atheists have a spiritual life? Is there distance in their head, or do they just think of what they can touch, what's around them? So that comes later, I guess. That's a conversation for later. But the thing I like about this book is that you don't have to be an addict to apply the 12 steps. You don't have to be a religious person to tap into the spirituality. And Lucas Danner is our resident atheist. Good to hear.
Ray, just as a heads up, there's something super wrong with the audio. I don't know if anybody else is hearing it, but it sounds robotic. I don't know if it's a plug in and plug back in sort of a deal.
Okay. I think it might be it might be the airline headphones that I'm using. That might be part of the problem. But still robotic?
Half robotic. So let's just continue and I'll let you know if there's anything, if it goes more wrong.
Eyes raining, feeling human emotions. So if you find yourself in the depths of the lowest levels of the scale, feeling hate, shame, resentment, envy, all those things, living a life of crime.
Uh-oh. All right. We might give it one more shot, then I might bring one of you dogs up here just as another touch base. Let's see.
Hey.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Morning, Wes. Pretty good. Good morning, guys. I'm just in Beverly Hills.
Oh, nice, man. What are you doing there?
Going to this federal building for grand jury.
Interesting. I did not expect that. What are you going there for?
So the grand jury, they just had me record the audio because they, I think it's to cut costs for court reporters, or maybe because there's a lack of, but they're having me take the record. And maybe it's got something to do with that I'm a notary public to make it legit, but yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Well, let me ask you this, because last time we talked, I sent you the Adobe Creative Cloud stuff. We want to give you resources to pursue your craft. How is the pursuit of mastering videography, editing, all of that stuff? How's it going for you?
Not good, just because I haven't been working on getting the nitty gritty of the video editing, like actually practicing. I've just been looking up YouTube videos on the overall just strategies, like how to learn in 20 minutes type stuff. But no. And actually I did. Last time I came out here, I shot some footage, but I just walked around all day trying to edit something, but it's not quite Food Channel travel blog quality yet. So, yeah, that's
throw something out there to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I always approach mastery of craft in 3 different prongs. The first prong is doing what you're doing, right? Like absorbing information that will help you in your journey. And I would say that's progress. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. That is 100% progress in my opinion. The next level is actually doing this stuff, and it's going to be hard doing this stuff. You're going to fail at doing this stuff, et cetera. And then the next level is teaching the stuff, as simple as that sounds. It's kind of like in the medical community. I think in education system, they say see one, do one, teach one. That's kind of where I got that from. So I think you should give yourself credit, man. Like if you're starting to absorb some of that content, that's the first step. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then just so everybody knows, Lucas wants to go in the direction of videography as well as editing and so on. Is that correct, bud? And let people know what your North Star is so that way they can help you if needed.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I just want to be good at, I want to be able to shoot, edit, and produce things. I'd like to be able to do that. And even if that goes with bigger projects where I have to go out and get people together, but also just little ones or like podcast producing, like that kind of thing. But that's way easier just sitting in a room and having really high quality audio and troubleshooting like Zoom than creating a little music video or something like that. So I haven't narrowed it down, but I'm open to all that. I'd like to know how to do it anyway.
Hell yeah. Awesome. All right, dude. Any other questions, updates for us, bud? I know you're running into this grand jury situation.
No, I gotta post about it later. Sorry.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, brother. Go get him. And Ray, welcome back. Lucas, we'll talk to you soon, Beast.
See you, Ray. See you, Wes.
Later, Ray.
Thanks for the update, Lucas. Stay on the path of progress.
Yeah, we're going to try to get him to help us at the office with some videography, some light editing
amazing
stuff.
Dude, he could teach us about hair grooming too, man. Wow.
Yeah, dude. The crazy thing is, he lives about 30 minutes from me.
Amazing.
A small world. Yeah.
Amazing. Stay on the path of progress. What is that expression? It's not linear, or you know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what expression you're referring to, but yes, if I'm piecing it together, it's definitely not a linear. It's more of like a back and forth zigzag. From
it's
A
like weight
to
loss.
D to B. Oh yeah.
Right, you're up one day. You're up a pound today. You're down 2 tomorrow. Then you plateau for a week. So just, Lucas, we know you've got a rich and nuanced, like atheist umami kind of existence. So like stuff comes up, work comes up, love comes up. So, but just stay on the path of progress. And if you take a day or two off, doesn't matter. Just get back on it. And that weaves in perfectly to the 12 steps, right? Like the 12 steps, the expression one day at a time.
Yep.
Right. Or that's from AA and.
Oh, is it really?
And yeah. And NA, we say just for today. And I presume that sex addicts and food addicts and whatnot have different variations of that tailored to their needs. But the path of progress, just like one day at a time. We don't need Lucas to become Steven Spielberg overnight, right? We just need him to put in. We don't even need him to do anything. He's fine the way he is, but like maybe he needs himself just to put in 1 minute, 5 minutes, an hour. There's an amazing video interview with Shia LaBeouf and John Bernthal from the Walking Dead series. The boys on War Mode mentioned this. Matt and Shane have mentioned this. I watched it. It's amazing. Where Shia LaBeouf was canceled in the popular culture for either, sexual improprieties or kind of spousal abuse or some version of the two. And he went into either AA or NA and found Jesus. And the whole conversation is about his personal transformation and the difficult journey of personal transformation. And so anyone who finds, and so I think we can all find ourselves having like these lower energy thoughts once in a while when we're in traffic or we're feeling jealous of others or when we're arguing with someone or we have a neighbor like mine. But and it is a kind of a self-examination that is required, And the 12 steps. Now, do you want to do a format of you read the steps and I riff on them? Or do you want to pull them up? Or do you have that screen technology at your disposal, or should I just do both? Okay.
Yep, let's do it. And you want me to pull up the formal 12 steps?
Well, let's do NA 12 steps because that doesn't say alcohol in particular. It says addiction. So it's a broader net.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Okay, step number 1. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. And maybe Ray, do you think there's enough time in the next 27 minutes to do 12, or should we do 6?
Absolutely. Well, let's go. Let's see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So that's step number 1.
So this is a step of self-awareness, of realization, of a wake-up call, of a reality check, right? That you're powerless over your addiction, that we were powerless. And the we is important, right? Because of the power of the team, right? You'll notice that it's not I through any of this, it's all we. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction. It's not just you going through this, it's we who are going through this. And it doesn't say and that our lives had become unmanageable, because one doesn't come before the other, or the other doesn't come before the one, right? It's holding two thoughts in your head at the same time. Powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. And if you find yourself in a lower level of the Dodson energy scale, there's something unmanageable going on in your life, right? If you're getting out of your car and threatening to karate somebody because of traffic, you're probably mad at your spouse. You're probably mad at your boss. You're probably mad at yourself. So that's the self-awareness step. Give me number 2.
Number 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
So perhaps earlier versions of this had the term God instead of power greater than ourselves. But for the godless, hell-bound atheists listening, they use the term power greater than ourselves. So that can include the white, blonde, buff, 6-pack abs, Jesus on the cross that I believe in. Mm-hmm. But that can also be just whatever your God is of your organized religion, or it can be whatever God you feel is spiritual, that spiritually works for you, or it can be the universe, or it can be whatever power greater than ourselves. For absolute atheists, the power of the team, the power of the people in the church basement on the folding chairs trying to overcome their alcohol addiction together. The power of the team in terms of this men's group, this men's mentorship program that you and Matt created, that has given us such amazing transformation in the dogs who are listening. So I think
that's super important. What you just said in terms of you don't have to believe in if you're
organized religion,
atheist, exactly, some sort of overarching system where you are not the pinnacle. Right, where there's a system, there is that sort of thing. Got it.
Yeah, and so again, like this scale, the energy scale goes from base acts to noble acts to enlightenment, right? And so at the scale of 6, I think it's 1,000-point scale, right? But at 600 above, the author says that there's only 100 people on the planet who are 600 above, because that's just like monks who meditate 24/7, don't need food, don't need water, don't need sex, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yes, they drink, yes, they eat, but really just like are the happiest people on earth, living in rags, living, in a tiny hut. So that kind of spiritual enlightenment, so just to give a kind of a preview, the scale goes from 0 bad acts to the middle noble acts to the top, which is totally spiritual. And even like, and again, there's something about, I don't know why, I wonder if animals have a spirituality, because like, no matter where you grow up in the world and what time, like you're required to have some kind of spiritual life in order to feel a sense of completeness, right? I don't know what that is, but it as far as I know, like it's just something we have. It's just something in our list of wants and needs,
right?
The spiritual component of our existence. So if you just use God or the universe or the energy that we all share, whatever it is, there's something about turning over your decision-making to that higher power.
Yep.
That enables you to say, okay, my drunk, drug addicted, or my raging anger life, or my constant infidelity life, whatever, isn't really getting me where I want. Why don't I just try turning it over to God, who I've never met, who I don't really believe in? Why don't I just try turning over to him? Because it hasn't been going that well so far with me at the wheel, right? Why don't I just try turning it over to the advice of the men's group? Because it hasn't really been going that well for me so far. So that again, so like you said, there's something about that turning over, like taking the decision it's a paradox, but there's something about taking the decision making out of your hands that puts you on the fast track to autonomy.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Hey, I have not gotten the results that I've wanted. Maybe my answers are not correct. Maybe I should trust in a larger system to see if that has the answers. And let me play in that space for a little while. And I will very likely find it's a better space.
You talk about it with exercise and diet all the time, where it's like you might as well try it for 30 to 60 days or a year or whatever. You say before I can conclusively say that it's junk, it's bunk, it's not working, it won't work for me. Right. Like you can't really make that determination. It won't work for me, or it doesn't work if you try it for 48 hours.
Right.
Right. So there we have the self-awareness of step one, and that turning over, giving someone else the keys in step two. Hit me with step three.
All right. Step three, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him.
Now, for the purpose of this conversation, I can't really remember why 2 and 3, they're both God steps. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why they break it into 2 steps, but let's look at it. Okay. Right. So the giving someone else the keys is step 3. Step 2 is in the past tense, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. So I guess the second step is the little spark, a little ember of hope that maybe something else, someone else.
Right. So what I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It seems like step 2 is the realization. Step 3 is the action of giving over.
The affirmative act. Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Okay. So step 4. Should we go step 4 or no?
Go.
All right. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. This sounds tough.
It is because, and again, just for those who just tuned in, you don't have to be a drug addict, alcoholic, sex addict, food addict, video game addict to subscribe to this code. For Wes, this is a code to live by, which makes it such a useful tool for anybody to try. And again, same as the author. Like the author's not talking about drug addiction or alcohol addiction when he brings this up. The author says, if you're stuck in the lower ways of living, this is a good, this is a good ladder to climb yourself out. So step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. That hurts, man. Because
what's an example of that?
Okay. So the first, so you got to work the steps in order, right? So the first week with your sponsor, all you talk about is how powerless you are over addiction and how your lives have become unmanageable. He's not saying, okay, go apologize to your mom, go apologize to your wife. You're just talking, you're talking about how much you screw up, how much you can't stop drinking or drugging. And then you get into the God talk. It's only then where it's like, I'm a bum. God will save me. God, take me in your arms. Only then do you make that list of all the things you've done wrong, all the things you think wrong, all the ways in which you're broken. Right? Because if you start with the list of all the things you've done wrong, all the ways you act wrong, all the ways you're broken, I think half the people that sign up for AA would be jumping off a building. Right? It's no accident. Like every single word here, and the order in which they're, and the order of the steps is no accident. So so God loves you. God's going to take care of you. The universe loves you. You're here for a reason. You got to know that before you start making a list of all the people you've screwed, all the things you've done wrong, all the bad habits. Whether that's I don't need to make a list of all the things that even the most kind of noble-minded person does.
Dude, this is so great.
Or thinks rather.
Yeah. Each time we go through this, I get an element of wisdom, like the true power of this stuff. Yeah. It's like, oh man. So the way I'm summarizing it so far as I look through this, so it's, hey, I'm powerless. Something's got a hold of me. And some part of my life, if not all of it, has become unworkable as a result.
Yeah.
So like acknowledge it. Then there is a greater system being, whatever your belief is, greater than myself, that can help. Hey, maybe I'm not the first person who's gone through this. Maybe in the universe of knowledge, maybe that has the answer. And I
just thought of personal budgeting. Like if you don't want, if like the addiction thing and the spiritual thing is like a hang up for you, you could look at this through the lens of personal budgeting. You know, I can never say no to like Amazon purchases. I'm broke as a result. I came to believe that there's a personal budgeting kind of program that can like restore me to solvency. You know, there's a personal finance coach out there. I'm going to turn my care over to him. Then make a searching mortal inventory of like what you buy and why you buy it and what your needs are. Right. So like, again, yeah. Like, and I think, you don't strike me as someone who suffers from substance abuse, you know, or like being a born again Christian. But again, I just love it. It pumps me up that you get so much utility out of this.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Absolutely.
You know, it reminds me that I'm not just a recovering drug addict, but like that I am like my journey isn't just from like drinker to sober. My journey's from off the path of progress to on the path of progress.
Yeah, I particularly am attracted to that word that they use in step number 1, where it's, you know, our lives have become unmanageable. You know, the word that I always think of in my head is like, oh, this is unworkable. It's not about morality. It's not about anything else. It is not workable. It is
or chaos,
dysfunction.
Right?
Exactly.
I think of dysfunctional.
This cannot function. All of these things, given all of our goals, this piece over here keeps on messing up everything for me to pursue the North Star. Like that, by my definition, is unworkable. It is unmanageable. I've often found that using that type of language in conflict resolution is extremely helpful. Hey, Ray, like
it's not, you're not using the words right and wrong or good and bad.
Yeah. And also by extension, I'm also not criticizing you. I'm not calling you names. If you ever found in conflict, like one of the first things you want to do is like, Ray, you're a jerk. You know, and like these things don't mean anything. And in fact, they do mean something, but they will mean much more to you when I call you that. You know what I mean? Versus, hey, Ray, let's try to work this out. What we're doing right now is not workable. The goal is this. I assume your goal is this. Hey, Mr. Neighbor, I assume our goal is to live in some sort of harmony, right?
Each enjoy the enjoyment of our properties.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you even want to go one step further, not even identifying that person to the activity in the verbal discussion. Hey, here, I assume both of our goals is to have harmony amongst this geographical land.
Everybody has the right to so and so. And
then what is being done? X, Y, and Z with the car, the brick dust, and et cetera. What is being done is unworkable for me. And I'm sure I've probably done something similar that's unworkable for you. How can we create a workable situation? Something like that. Way different than you're an ass and you're a jerk, blah, blah, blah.
I'm calling my lawyer. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it just perpetuates. So that unmanageable word, sorry for the riff, but unmanageable word I really like.
No, absolutely. And we'll go to number 5 now. And so read that out to me. And it's awesome. It's unlocking all kinds of stuff.
Right. Step number 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That's super interesting to me. Please break that down.
So when you admit to God and to yourself, you're saying it in the form of prayer, perhaps, or a thought. But when you admit to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, it's a confession. It's confiding, and again, it's the power of the team, right? So what are you admitting? You're admitting the exact nature of our wrongs. So I guess that is the moral inventory that produces a list of harms that you have caused, right? And so let's say it's something as innocent as peeing in the sink instead of sitting down and peeing or using the toilet because it's so much closer or it's like the right level to your body, whatever. I mean, just, I'm not talking, might not be personal experience, but like, I'm just, or a child pornography or like embezzling from your family or your office, right? Like think of like that huge difference in terms of like, bad behavior scale.
Yep.
When you say that out loud to another human being, right? Then it's real. Then it's like you're now. Yeah, exactly. Now we're cooking with gas, says ASP, right? Because now you can be turned in, or you can be shamed, or that's being vulnerable, right? And so and when we talk about the power of the team here, those are your words. And so I think that's from when I saw, we admitted to God ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That's when the power of the team comes in, right? Where we can tell them, yeah, you screwed up and you're a piece of garbage, but we're not kicking you out of the group. We're going to be on you until you're we're going to pick you up, basically.
Can I ask a question that's popping out for me?
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Please.
Or everyone else in the group chimes in with, "Hey, I've done that a million times," or "Hey, I still do that, and let's work on this together." Go ahead.
So for the guy, I imagine, like you're saying, there's a full spectrum of this, and part of that spectrum could go into an extreme category. What is the code? Just so I'm curious if any guys are wondering, like, "Hey, I can't say this out loud." I'm going to imagine there's a certain cohort of actions. Let's just say somebody murdered somebody. That
comes up all the time, or that is the like no that is the typical kind of riddle or dilemma or kind of hypothetical, right? So what's the code there? Well, the code is that like priests have a priest penitent kind of confidentiality and doctor patients have the same thing. It's called lawyers and clients have the same thing. It's called privilege, right? Mm-hmm. And so like those individual priests, doctors, lawyers, spouses have a personal duty to keep that stuff you say confidential. And then, but even in the court, it's called a privilege because in the court of law, those people can't even be compelled to testify. Right? It's against the rules to compel them to testify because that privilege, you hear about executive privilege on the news, like is so important, right? So the Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, the anonymous part is so important. It gets drilled into, like there's a list of disclosures that are read at the beginning of every single meeting. And you never use your last name. You just say, "Hi, my name's Ray and I'm an addict," or you can use a fake name. And when over the pandemic, when calls and meetings were in Zoom or over the phone, people would occasionally say, "You never know who's listening to this. So like guard your anonymity carefully," because, and I think that the implication was that cops might be listening who are trying to solve unsolved crimes.
That's pretty interesting. I never really thought about the anonymous part, as dumb as that sounds.
No, it's an absolute pillar. It might be the strongest pillar, or like, of the system.
I could almost see, and as weird as this sounds, I could almost see a certain amount of like, if you come into the meeting and you put a mask on, or like how much more vulnerable would you be?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Distancing yourself from, hey, this is not my identity. This is just a pattern that I've tapped into that has become unmanageable. It's become unworkable. And I have got my mask on and I give a different name so that maybe that allows me the distance to analyze it under a microscope and saying, yeah, this isn't workable. And maybe this group of people or the system or God has the answers. How can I start to untangle this? Just like a puzzle, not as an identity. Oh, I'm so wrong. I'm so this, I'm terrible. I'm perpetually I'm just and it's eternally destined to hell.
And it's full of paradoxes, right? Because on the one hand, we have to take personal responsibility for our actions, but on the other hand, we say that's the disease, like a sex addict who's constantly cheating on their spouse. they have to take personal responsibility for the actions. They have to stop that behavior, but also like it is, we accept that it is the addiction that's causing that behavior, right? So there's that kind of contradiction there. And then there's the contradiction of, yes, it's anonymous, but we rely on the support of the others so much that they become closer to us than even our own family members at times. Mm-hmm. So there are these kind of inherent contradictions, but the anonymity, the mask, like you just said.
Yeah, I could totally see, I don't know.
The vulnerability it unlocks everything.
Yeah, I don't contradictory does. Now, I don't know the rules clearly as well as you do, obviously. Mm-hmm. Nope. So I'm not fluent at all. I wouldn't have thought that there's contradiction, at least so far, because I'm creating this vision in my head. It's like, okay, well, if I have anonymity and I'm looking at, so now I've distanced myself. It's not me. It's just the things that I have done. If I'm looking at this puzzle that I'm supposed to be putting a nice mosaic puzzle piece together or pieces together, but I've just like not at all. I've mixed up all the pieces and so on. I can still say it is not me, but I also can take responsibility for I messed up the puzzle. How can I start unpacking these things and then so I can start recreating the puzzle? So for some reason, contradiction doesn't come up for me. For some reason, there's still a healthy balance of distance, but also, hey, I also did that thing.
Right. And so on step 5, and part of the that I just was thought of, like part of the admitting to another human being's exact nature of wrongs is and when I say the team, it's the accountability of the team. Right. Like until, like ASB said, now we're cooking with gas, like until you admit it to another person, you can talk yourself out of the change.
And do you have to admit it to the team, or can it just be any human? It
just says another human being for that specific reason. Like in the Bible, like Jesus says, when 2 or 3 of us are gathered together, that's enough of a quorum to have a church service, to have a mass. Right. And so like, yes, it's usually in a big church with lots of people, but all it takes is 2 or 3 of us gathered together. So all it takes to satisfy step 5 is to another human being. When you're at a meeting and if it's a sharing meeting, it's your turn to share. You are confessing all this stuff, confessing your crimes and confessing your hopes for the future to a group. So it's not just another human being, but the program works even if it's just one other human being. Right? Like when you're in conversation with your like when I'm in conversation with one of the other dogs on the team benefits are activated. It doesn't have to be the whole group.
Yep.
Right? Like for almost a year, John Walter and I did the scorecard together on our own. And that you're right, and that derived as much power, if not more, than when there's 10 people on the call.
Love it.
Right. Let's go to 6.
All right. So it seems like we got time for one more. Step number 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character.
And again, I'm a little rusty on this. I mean, it's not that I'm back on drinking or drugging, but like I had a crazy dream yesterday where I was smoking and drinking. And it's funny that like in your dreams, they say in your dreams, that's the only place where you're allowed to get high and there's no consequence, or like, or that you're allowed to get drunk or there's no consequence. Right. And so,
oh dude, I'm going to write that down. That is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. And again, right. Cause like I'm sure someone as airtight as you probably has all kinds of unmanageable behavior in dreams, right? That you would rather not like obtain in your real life. So why again? So the God, you would think that like the God steps could be all wound up into one, right? And that like we adopt a God-focused life, and that takes care of the rest. But it's by design that they are broken up into various steps. So 6 is we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. So 5 was admitting to God. 3 was the decision to turn over a life to God. 2 was we came to believe that God could restore us to sanity. And so 6, entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Again, so you don't make a list of your bad behavior and your personal failings and the selfish, evil, dirty thoughts you have, and then just go take it off one by one. Again, you have to turn this over to the higher power. You have to turn it over to Christ. You have to turn it over to the universe. You have to turn it over to the team. You have to turn it over just to the and in terms of like NA and AA, like, again, if you're like a godless, hellbound atheist, you just turn it over to the power of the group in the circle of chairs in the church basement. That qualifies as the higher power.
And just so I know, I'll make sure, can you repeat that quote one more time? I want to make sure I've written it down correctly in my phone. Like your dream.
Dreams are the only place you're allowed to get high without any consequences. It's
Dude,
something like that.
That is so profound, because oftentimes, whether it be with whatever, whether it be, oh, I'm in a relationship and there's this other female or something like that, or this other thing, it's like, if you can just have another man sit next to you, say, hey, that dream, that's the only place that exists without all of the consequences that you're actually going to go through if you go and do that.
Right. Like if Tiger Woods saw like a really hot Starbucks barista, you could tell him, hey, man, you can hook up with her as long as it's in your dreams.
No, man. So literally that is so profound, because oftentimes our brain will dramatically, increase the value of that activity and dramatically decrease the value of the consequences, almost to the point where it's non-existent. Right. And it's like, no, let's really walk through and get you to feel what that would actually feel like. Those consequences are severe. Your family goes away, right? You are shamed for the rest of your reputation's gone. Like, what does that actually feel like? Very rarely as men do we actually think about that. And whether it be drug usage, alcohol usage, whatever the vice is.
Yeah. Because that urge, phenomenal. The craving, the urge is so powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Horniness, like addiction, all of it. A shopaholic, like all like that urge, like that. A gambling addict. Like think about like that urge, that craving.
Oh yeah,
so powerful.
And you relate it back to the first one of the words in the first step, which is what you're about to do will make your life unmanageable.
And so a mantra that we also had was like, if someone's in a dilemma, they call their sponsor and they're like, oh, I saw this Starbucks barista with sleeve tattoos and like piercings and like, I'm so horny, but he can just say, Ray, just think about if the action you're pondering is going to make your life more or less unmanageable.
Interesting. So that's a literal conversation.
Yeah. But except for the barista, like with the piercings thing, but like
I'm sure that conversation happens often.
But I mean, I do drink about 10 cups a day. But right, you don't have to be down in the gutter and being like, shit, man, I'm officially unmanageable. It can be like, is this next action or this next step going to make your life a little more or a little less unmanageable? Right. And so like even in like road rage, you're like, honking a horn, giving this guy the finger, is that going to make my life more or less manageable, more or less unmanageable? Right. Dude, and if you can stop, if you can stop and have that moment of reflection and be like, murdering my wife and like marrying this barista will probably make my life a little more unmanageable. If you can just have that moment of reflection, right? Take a beat.
Right? And I would imagine to have another man or whoever's on your team, right, to remind you, because your brain is now intoxicated with whatever chemicals are going on, and you're unidimensionally focused on that outcome. Have another man remind you, hey man, no, remember your goals, remember your vision board. Yeah, life isn't a music video. Life isn't a hip hop music video. No, really, right. Like as comical as that sounds, oftentimes, even myself, like I do revert to the Hollywood version of whatever the vice is. There's no doubt about it. That has scrubbed clean all the consequences, and it only gives the fiction. 100%. The fiction, And so let's just wrap up with step 6. Yep. We are entirely ready to have God remove all these effects characters. So again, it is a step unto itself. Just like making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to God, the care of God has been understood. That is a full out of the 12 things that are going to save your life. That is just making that decision
is a step unto itself, because it's not just like, okay, it's like, so do you understand what this means? If you're turning your will over to the power of the group, that means what you've been doing so far doesn't work for you anymore. Okay. That means you're going to stop. Okay. That means you're going to just not trust your gut and follow the code of conduct of the group. Are you still okay with that? You're like, okay. So like, number 6, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, is a step unto itself, because you have to be entirely ready. You know, when people are throwing their lives away with addiction, maybe they say, okay, I'm quitting drinking, but they'll still smoke pot. Mm. Right. So that, or I still I'm going to go to a bar and just like drink a non-alcoholic beer, or I'm going to still hang out with all my drinking and drug addicting friends. Right. Or the sex addict is still going to go to the strip club, but he's not going to, right. So like all those exceptions that you try to carve out of the program to make it to really, cause you're like, means you're not ready to turn over your will and your life to God. You're not ready to entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, right? So I guess why these are individual steps unto themselves is because we're so tempted to carve out exceptions to make the journey easier for ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, think of the path of progress, right? Mm-hmm. Think about diets, think about exercise. Can you think of a scenario where you or people try and carve out exceptions? Like, I'm not going to eat carbs anymore, except for Funyuns or pork rinds or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I would love to get deeper into the discussion on, and the way I'm not gonna be able to articulate this properly, but the way I'm thinking about it is like, okay, you have a bullseye. That is for sure a dead ringer for a bad thing, right? Like, whatever that thing is, right? Like the alcohol actually going into, right, like through your mouth, right? That sort of thing. Yeah. But then, so that's the bullseye. There's no question there. But then there's that second ring where it's like really slippery zone. So
where you're like watching people enjoy alcohol.
Yeah, I'm at a bar.
And wishing, you're at a bar, right? Or watching people who don't have a problem with alcohol enjoying it and like going back to like their regular manageable job, family.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if we talk in this group and as men we commit to something like we don't even go into the slippery zone, like that. Yeah. That's the offense. Mm-hmm. Like. Obviously, the drinking the alcohol is the offense, but maybe the real offense is just going and putting yourself in that zone. What do they say in AA? Yeah. It's like if you don't want to slip, don't go where it's slippery.
People, places, and things. That's another one, right?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be alcohol. Like people, places, and things. If your family is like, if your family's holding you back, right? And with your wife and children, I don't know. That's tricky, but like. If your brothers and sisters and uncles and parents are holding you back, right. Like maybe you got to move out or move to the next town over to really go into like top gear, right? Because you're people, places, and things. Maybe you don't go to McDonald's. Maybe you start like it's the same thing that we talk about. Whereas like when you power the team, like when you go to a gym, chances are you're going to work out harder. If you go to the library. Chances are you're not going to watch TikTok videos, but actually do the work because like there's that kind of like social capital on that on the line.
Yeah, there's sort of like an environmental momentum that pushes.
Yeah.
And I would love to go deeper, maybe next time or sometime over the next couple meetings of, for instance, this comes up in relationships a lot. Let's just say alcohol.
Yeah.
So the amount of times it comes up in relationships of like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to cheat, I didn't mean to do whatever, and it's like.
I was just texting that Instagram booty model, like, right?
Right.
I'm just texting
it. Well, and in particular with alcohol, because oftentimes you can be like, I was drunk, I didn't know. It's like, well, that's why the offense was not that. Yes, it was that, but the real offense was you making the decision to even put yourself in a position for that. Let's be honest,
right?
Because the one is like, oh, my brain was taken away. It's like, well, your brain was not taken away on the original action. Yeah. So as a partnership, we've talked about this, or if you haven't talked about your partner, maybe you should. It's like, that's the offense. So just for me, my commitment to whoever my future partner is I don't drink anyway to begin with. but it's not because it's not fun. It's not like, it's a blast. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, but like a bunch of my friends,
it's God's finest creation on the one hand, right? Nothing works like that first beer.
Yeah, right. Like, so that's the thing, but it's the consequences that come as a result. So and I think in particular for relationships, so my commitment to my future partner, my future wife, et cetera, is you don't even ever have to worry. There will never be a situation where I was at a lunch meeting with an attractive female and then I say, yeah, like I'll have a glass of wine. Like that is not even, I take that off the table. Why? Maybe it sounds extreme, but the consequences are so extreme. If you've got a family, if you're trying to build a family with somebody, you know how much hinges off of that one particular action? The outsized negative returns from that activity and the payoff is so asymmetrical, it makes zero sense unless you're trying to do it and to get those like the sneaky consequences.
And again, Wes, like having a work meeting with an attractive woman and then having a glass of wine and walking to her hotel and just like being a gentleman and holding her hotel room door open, like do those steps make your life more or less manageable? Do they make your life more or less unmanageable? Right? Like that same thing applies.
Yeah. And Gunther's comment, spot on, man. Gunther, I hope you don't mind me saying this out loud, but he's talking about, he said, you know, he and his ex are going through this right now from a DM. I'm going through this right now with a DM from my ex. My intentions were fine and to be clear, but my bae didn't like the actions of responding itself. Didn't matter that I told her
of course.
She's crazy.
And Gunther, the team goes through this all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like this isn't just you, bro.
That's the second ring. Oh yeah, Gunther, completely agree with you, bud. Like, you know, and that's an example of like, maybe you want to consider not even going into that second ring outside of the bullseye. It's just like complete disconnection, whatever. I don't know enough about like different social media, but like don't follow, don't be connected, etc.
Or delete the DM, delete the conversation too. Not because you did anything wrong, but just because it is like not that you did anything wrong, but it's even the proof of your innocence is inflammatory to your partner, right? Like that's the other thing. Like I've gone through that with my therapist. He's like, clearly you wanted to get caught. He's like, I didn't want to get caught. He's like, but you didn't delete the conversation. I'm like, no. And you left the phone open, like on the table, and went and had a shower. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you wanted to get caught.
Interesting.
You know? Yeah. And so again, you know, a bit of a tangent again, but just offering that up to the team. So that was 6. You have to be entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So it takes, and Gunther, I went through some things. I mean, again, I have to relearn that lesson over and over again. Don't worry. So like you have to adopt the whole program, not just pick and choose and then wonder why it isn't working for you. Right. Think of diets, think of exercise, think of the mastery of your craft. Right. Wes, let's leave it there. We're halfway through the list. I hope the dogs found that useful. I found it useful, Wes. And again, Wes, please remind me if I ever fall off the wagon and like think I can start drinking or drugging again, that like my dreams cannot come true if I'm drinking or if I'm drugging. Like,
yeah,
the amount of progress that you have guided me through over the last 2 years, it has been like, it's been meteoric, you know, and in 1 month, I'm going to be celebrating 8 years without drinking. And it's like, again, this isn't a show about addiction, but this is a show about being on the path of progress. And for me, like my dreams, like I have my own business, you know, I have a happy marriage. I have a daughter. I've got my own car. Like we have a house. Like that is not possible if I fall off without it. All of that is possible only because I'm on the path of progress.
100%, man. I appreciate your compliments. Thank you very much. And it's right back at you. Like I would not be making this progress if it wasn't for you and for the team, et cetera. And again, circle, not a triangle. You know, and I would also say that like, it's a perpetual journey for me included. Like I've got my own addictions. They happen not to be in the standard categories that society particularly pushes against, but I've got my own primarily.
We know, Wes, we know, dude. It's obvious. And they are standard. They're just not the same as mine. And let's continue this discussion on Monday. Let's stay on the path of progress. Love you, man. Love all my dogs.
Love you too, buddy. One more piece for everybody, just so you know, this has been coming up in my life quite consistently, and it has to do with what we talked about all of today. I constantly try to remind myself of this. Never risk the empire on a pot of gold, ever. Right? It's just not worth it. Don't risk the empire on a pot of gold. Ray is building up all of this life with his family and his business, etc. And if he goes off and tries to get this little bitty pot of gold, it's not
with the Starbucks barista. Don't risk the empire for a Starbucks barista, boys. Look what happened to Tiger Woods and purge.
Isn't that crazy?
So first of all, he should have purged those messages from his phone. Okay. And then second of all, don't unless Delco Jim is the barista. All right, you clowns. Have a good weekend.
Later, bros.